still issues, but we got them fixed eventually. I'll try and catch up some time here. So this slide actually got this from findagrave.com, and you can actually see Barrett there in the red circle at Dealey Plaza. So just shout next slide. So we're now at 10th and Patton, obviously, with Tippit's the scene of Tippit's murder. So when Barrett got there, there were a lot of people around, he said, and he actually inadvertently stepped in a pool of Tippit's blood by the side of Tippit's squad car. And he was there when witnesses like Helen Markham, etc., were being interviewed. When Barrett was at the scene, he recognised Captain Westbrook, and Barrett saw that Westbrook had a wallet in his hand. And Westbrook asked him if he had ever heard of a Lee Oswald or an Alec Heidel, and Barrett said that he had not heard of either of those names. And it was felt possibly that because Barrett was in the criminal squad, that he may have had knowledge of, local criminals, etc. But Barrett had not heard of Oswald or Heidel. It then came over the police radio that a suspect in the Tippit shooting had entered the Texas Theatre. So Barrett immediately drove over to the Texas Theatre, but we will come back and talk a wee bit more about the wallet later on. If you can just go to the next slide. This is a frame from a still from a WFAA TV news report from 2013. And I do think that's Barrett there on the left in the Oak Cliff area where Tippit was shot. I think that TV article is from 2013. Next slide. We're now inside the Texas Theatre with Barrett. Now, in his oral history that he gave to the the sixth floor museum, he said when he got there, he encountered a guy in the foyer, a small man about 5'5", and the man had a double-barrel shotgun. And Barrett asked him what he was planning to do with the shotgun, and he said he was going to go in and shoot the son of a bitch. So this I think was just a member of the public. So Barrett told him to wait in the lobby. I told him to wait where he was. And while he was in the lobby, Barrett saw Westbrook again. Now, these guys were probably having a conversation when they heard the noise inside the theatre, inside where Oswald was, and they probably heard the scuffle taking place. Barrett ran inside the theatre and went down one of the aisles bordering the middle section. And before he knew it, he was actually standing in the row directly in front of the struggle that was taking place. And the gun was being waved around in front of him. Now, at one point when the gun passed him, he actually reached out and he grabbed it. So he actually grabbed the gun away from Oswald, Donald, and any of the other police officers that were there, and he passed it to Detective Bob Carroll and said, "You should take this as evidence." So much for the FBI instruction of observe but not participate. Obviously, Barrett was in the thick of it there. In his subsequent report, though, he didn't include in it that he grabbed the gun, as he didn't want to get into any trouble with the Bureau. So I think that whole thing about observing but not participating, Barrett left that bit out about him grabbing the gun, so he didn't get into any trouble. And he also never mentioned, to my knowledge, the conversation with Westbrook and the wallet at 10th and Patton. Can we go to the next slide, Tony? Yep. I found this again. It was on findagrave.com, and it looks like it's from the TV documentary, The Lost Bullet. And we can see Barrett outside the Texas Theatre with the arrow pointing to him, as Oswald was being bundled inside the car and taken to police headquarters. Barrett says he then got in his car and drove to police HQ, and it was during that journey when they found out that JFK had died. Now, Barrett said he went to the police headquarters because he had heard Oswald shouting about his civil rights being violated. Barrett himself said that he didn't observe any violation of Oswald's rights, and he wanted to ensure that the Dallas police report was written up accurately to dispel that claim. That's Barrett's view on it. It's not necessarily my view on it. Probably most of us in the room, but that's certainly what Barrett was saying, and why he went to the police headquarters. Next slide. I'll just try and quickly get through a lot of these. Obviously, we can see Zabruda here in this slide and the Berlin-Howell camera that he filmed the assassination with. Barrett's initial assignment after the assassination with his partner, Ivan Lee, was to trace, time and photograph Oswald's alleged movements from the book depository to Kent and Patton and then to the Texas Theatre. On Saturday, the 23rd of November, he spent time interviewing witnesses, and this included Abraham Zabruda, and he apparently actually went to Zabruda's house to retrieve the camera used to film the assassination, and he also obtained copies of the film that he turned in as evidence. So he is really in the middle of it all. You know, he's at all the different sites, and he's even handling the camera that was used and interviewing Abraham Zabruda. Next slide. We'll all be familiar with this picture. Barrett wasn't actually present when Ruby killed Oswald, as FBI agents were instructed to stay away from police headquarters until the transfer of Oswald to the county jail was complete. Barrett and his partner, Ivan Lee, had gone to the offices of KRLB TV news editor Eddie Barker to review their news footage from the previous few days. And there were two TVs in Barker's office. One was showing the JFK memorial service from Washington, D.C., and the other TV was showing on closed circuit Oswald's transfer. So when he saw Oswald being shot, he immediately called the Dallas agent in charge, Gordon Shanklin, and told him what he had just seen. Now, Shanklin initially misunderstood Barrett's call and was concerned because he thought Barrett was actually in the basement when it happened, and he had instructed the FBI agents to stay away. Obviously, that they cleared that up. When Barrett heard Ruby's name being mentioned on TV as the person who shot Oswald, he relayed that information to Shanklin, who actually was on the phone himself to J. Edgar Hoover. So Hoover relayed to Barrett that he wanted him to get all the information he could find on Ruby. And because Barrett knew that the FBI were trying to develop Ruby into a reliable informant, there was a file on him, so he was able to eventually pass that information on. So in effect, via the call with Shanklin, Barrett was in contact with Hoover at this time. Put the next slide. He then spent the next few months, actually even years when you think about it, running down leads for the Warren Commission. If you actually look at the Mary Ferrell website and you type in Bob Barrett's name, there's over 1,000 hits, many of them pertaining to organised crime figures that Barrett was investigating. Predictably, probably, Barrett says that he never saw any evidence of a conspiracy, and he was of the view that the case against Oswald was a quote slam dunk. He also said that he found no evidence of Ruby and Oswald knew each other. A couple of other interesting points about Barrett. Those of us that have been in the sixth floor museum in Dealey Plaza will probably have seen the reconstruction of Dealey Plaza in the museum. And Barrett was actually quite heavily involved in its construction insofar as a lot of the measurements and things that were put together, there were measurements that he made, and the FBI were then constructed the model. And he also found the markings on the curb regarding the shot that led to James Tegg being struck, and instructed the Dallas Street Department to use a cement saw to cut it out so he could send it to the FBI for analysis. So he did spend quite a bit of time after the assassination running down leads for the Warren Commission. We can get into a bit of that later on. The next slide. I'm just trying to go quite quickly through these to catch up. But when I start talking about three of the controversies that I think that Barrett was involved in, there's probably more than three, but we'll focus on these ones. These are pictures that you've probably seen these before. They were taken by Jim Murray and William Allen shortly after the assassination, and we can see Deputy Sheriff Buddy Walters, and I think it's up at Coleman Foster also in the pictures. And there's a man picking something up from the grass on the south side of Elm Street, and he appears to be putting it in his pocket. There's a lot of obviously suspicion that is actually a bullet that's been picked up there by this man. And I know Jeff Meek talked about it quite a bit at a presentation he did for the Allen Public Library that you might want to check out if you haven't already. So there's good evidence that this man is picking up a bullet and he's putting it in his pocket. Can we go to the next slide? I think it should be another picture of the man. You can see his head on the top right, and they're looking down at the ground. And this is a man who we see in the slides previously putting the object in his pocket. Now, many people have alleged over the years that the person putting the bullet in his pocket was actually Bob Barrett. And Robert Gemberlin, who I think was one of the kind of senior FBI guys who was the name behind the Gemberlin report. He thought it actually did resemble Barrett. He did kind of roll back on that and say that it wasn't him. But can we go to the next slide? Because I think it's quite clear from, that's that picture earlier on that I showed, and then I'm putting that up against. It's not the greatest technology, it's homemade technology here, but I think it's quite clear that it actually isn't Barrett who's that individual. And actually, Barrett denied himself it was him. He said in his oral history that the man in the picture had cuffs on his shirt that we can just about see, and he only wore short. And Barrett said he only ever wore short sleeves. He also said that he wore a Notre Dame ring on his right hand, and the man in the picture wasn't. Although we can't really see the man's right hand, so I don't really know how Barrett can say that, although maybe he saw other pictures. It's also doubtful that Barrett could have got to Dealey Plaza by 12:40 if he was driving from Richardson. But whilst the man clearly isn't Barrett, it doesn't answer the question of who that man actually was. And Jesse Curry's autobiography that came out in 1969 has one of the images of one of the pictures we've just seen. And actually, Curry says in his book that an FBI agent, Deputy Sheriff Walters, and a Dallas police officer inspect the area for bullet fragments. So even Curry would say that person was an FBI agent. So but I don't know if anybody who is watching this just now knows who that man is. I'm not aware that he's ever been identified, but I think we can agree, at least looking at those side by side, that the man wasn't Bob Barrett, but he obviously was somebody of interest. And as I say, I'm not aware that he's been identified yet.
So, Scott, are you absolutely convinced that the photograph on the left, the guy outside the Dowtex building, is Barrett? Have you been able to substantiate that?
Only really from the fact that the picture was from findthegrave.com, and it was Bob Barrett's obviously site. And I think it might have been family members that put that picture there. It does look the same guy that was in the other picture outside the outside the Texas Theatre. So I can only go on, what the pictures that I'm looking at, and so can only say it's Barrett because they say it's Barrett on the findthegrave.com.
Mm.
But The
I mean,
guy,
definitely.
the guy definitely doesn't look like Bob Barrett. You know, the guy at the Dealey Plaza.
I mean, definitely looks like the guy outside the theatre. I'm not so sure on the picture outside by the Tippit squad car, because it's a different perspective. The one by Tippit's car.
Yeah,
What was the source of that one?
that was from WFAA TV news report from November 2013, where they thought they were trying to clear up the mystery around the wallet that was found, and they interviewed Barrett in that article or that news report, and they put the picture up. So again, I'm making assumptions that that is actually Barrett, but they kind of say it is him, or at least they imply that it's him that's standing next to the patrol car. I'm not sure exactly when that would have taken place, whether that was on the day that Tippit was shot or taken subsequently. But yeah, I mean, I'm making this point simply from the pictures that I've got available to me. And if that indeed is Bob Barrett standing standing at Dealey Plaza, and if that is Barrett that was standing outside the Texas Theatre, then it isn't Barrett, and picking up the bullet and putting it in his pocket.
I mean, he was born in 26, so he's 37.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy on the right with the blonde hair who's thinning looks older.
Yeah.
I think he looks like he could be in his 40s.
Yeah.
And the dark-haired, Ray-Ban guy looks to me like he could be in his late 20s or early 30s.
Yeah. So I mean, when was he born again?
26, I think, was the first
Yeah,
time.
1926. So
he's 37.
Yeah.
And the Ray-Ban Barrett looks younger than 37, and the blonde-haired thinning Barrett looks older than 37.
Yeah, and as I said, those pictures are from of Barrett are from findagrave.com. And I think it was. I mean, I can't be certain of it. But I think it's a family member that put those pictures up there. But it's kind of like
perhaps reaching out to the family there. Maybe reaching out to the family just to confirm that. I think.
Yeah, possibly could try and do that. Yeah. I mean, would somebody from the family put up pictures on such a kind of public site that wasn't their family member? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, obviously, they're kind of the pictures are interesting because they're not pictures of Barrett, sitting having a drink or playing tennis or something. They're
surprising, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got them at these key locations, and that's what's been put up on findagrave.com. So we could read something into that as well. But on the basis that that is Barrett, then it's clearly not him. And if that is Barrett, it's clearly not him picking up the bullet. But so whether they've cleared it up or not, I don't know. But certainly, from those photographs, I think it's clear it's not him. But is that Barrett? On the left. Okay, will we move on? We're not going to look at the Barrett again and the controversy over the wallet. So the story has consistently been that Lee Oswald's wallet was taken from him in the car, police car, or the car when they were heading to the police HQ after his arrest. I mean, the ID was discovered for Lee Oswald and Alec Heidel. Now, in 1996, James Hostey's book came out, Assignment Oswald, and on page 62, it says, near the puddle of blood where Tippit's body had lain, Westbrook had found a man's leather wallet. In it, he discovered identification for Lee Oswald, as well as other identification for Alec Jai Heidel. Westbrook called Barrett over and showed him the wallet and identifications. Westbrook asked Barrett if the FBI knew anything about Oswald or Heidel. Barrett shook his head. So that's from page 62. Now, I think Barrett has corrected Hostey in that Westbrook didn't actually find the wallet. and there's a bit of controversy over that. Kenneth Croy says he was the first officer on the scene and he supposedly found this wallet. But Barrett was clear in interviews that he's given since that Westbrook did have the wallet in his hands and did ask him if he knew who Lee Harvey Oswald or Alec Heidel was. And obviously Barrett said he didn't. So there is this controversy around who found the wallet. Did that conversation take place at 10th and Patton? Barrett's very, very clear that it did. If we can move on to the next slide, it's really just we can quickly go past it. It's just one of the kind of ID, the Alec Heidel IDs. And if we move on to the next slide, it's just a kind of still. You've all seen this, the Ron Ryland film from the 22nd of November. And the arrow pointing to the wallet that they were looking through. I think that's in the hands of a police officer. It might have been Bud Owens. Does anybody know?
I think it might have been Owens, actually.
Yeah, he might be the guy holding the wallet. I think Ryland said, and when he was kind of like discussing the film, that he said that the wallet was actually Tippit's, but we know now that it wasn't Tippit's wallet. Tippit's wallet, I think, was on his person when he was shot, and it was a different style of wallet.
That footage was taken at 13:42.
Yeah, 142, yeah.
And it was shown on TV at 15:10.
Right.
FYI.
Yeah. So I think about 5 minutes or so after that was when that was shown that they actually headed off to the Texas Theatre. So it's not long after that Oswald is arrested. Some say the wallet in the picture is the same wallet Oswald owned and is now in the National Archives. Others disagree, such as Dale Myers. Now, he's not somebody that we would normally maybe quote, but he actually did personally go to the archives and look at the wallet and take pictures of it. And he is of the view that it's not the same wallet. The wallet that is in the archives is not the same wallet that we're looking at in that picture there. So it does lead to all that controversy because some people say that is the same wallet and others say it's not. Myers is somebody who, we probably disagree on with in respect of whether Oswald was involved in the Tippit shooting. But he is probably a good authority in the sense that he did personally handle the wallet at the archives, and he's of the view that it's not the same wallet. So we've got a little bit of a discrepancy there. Can we go to the next slide? So we've obviously got another famous picture, which is Paul Bentley taking Oswald out of the Texas Theatre. And it was Paul Bentley, the guy with the cigar, excuse me. He says that he took the wallet, excuse me, he took the wallet out of Oswald's pocket when they were in the car after the arrest at the Texas Theatre. And Bentley's been interviewed many times over the years, and he's not really deviated from that story. He's very clear about what happened. He said he took the wallet out of Oswald's pocket in the car. Now, Barrett's response to the story of the wallet being taken from Oswald in the car is that the police made that up, and he actually called that hogwash. That's the word he used in the little TV interview from 2013. So he's right in the middle of this controversy, really, Bob Barrett, because it's really Barrett that is saying that Westbrook had the wallet in his hand at 10th and Patton and said to him, "Do you know a Lee Oswald or an Alec Heidel?" And Barrett saying, "No, I don't." So Barrett's pretty clear in his recollections that Westbrook did have that wallet in his hand and did ask him those questions at 10th and Patton. But Paul Bentley's also clear that he took the wallet out of Oswald's pocket in the car. So could the wallet, I mean, this is just speculation, but could the wallet have been planted at the Tippit scene to incriminate Oswald? And when Westbrook heard that a suspect had entered the Texas Theatre, he had no reason to use the wallet anymore. He had no need for it because he knew the suspect was going to be arrested in a few minutes. Why did Barrett not write up? I mean, this is quite significant information. Why did Barrett not write up at the time that Westbrook had the wallet in his hands and asked him about, do you know a Lee Oswald or an Alec Heidel? We had to wait 23 years, really, for that revelation to come out. Is it likely that the person who shot Officer Tippit would just leave his wallet lying behind, like a calling card? Remember that Oswald, who was a suspect in the General Walker shooting, the police at that time found no evidence of value. So if Oswald was involved in the Walker shooting, he was pretty good at leaving nothing behind. But here he is leaving his wallet behind at the Tippit shooting. And we've also got Gus Rose, the Dallas police detective, saying he took ID out of Oswald's pocket when he was interrogating him at the police headquarters. So there's I mean, I'm not trying to solve the wallet mystery here because I think we need to spend a lot more time on it, and others are probably more familiar with this part of the story than I am. I'm trying to highlight Barrett's part in the controversy. And it's really him, as I said, it's at the centre of this because up until his dying day, really, he didn't really change his story. That Westbrook asked him those questions at the scene of 10th and Patton when he had the wallet in his hand. So that's Barrett's clear recollection, and without that, really, there's maybe less controversy around the wallet. But was there even a wallet? But was it? I mean, I think a lot of the responders didn't find a wallet. I don't know if Neil, if you know that, but a lot of the people, who were there initially didn't actually find a wallet there.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Simpich thinks that Westbrook threw it down. Westbrook brought it to the scene.
Yeah, because I think Kenneth Croy said it was passed to him by some unidentified individual, and I think Barrett himself, if my memory serves me right, went back to 10th and Patton and interviewed more witnesses around about March, April '64, and was told that one of the witnesses, but he can't remember the name of the person, said that they saw somebody handing something through the kind of passenger window to Tippit in the car. So he's speculating that may have been that wallet, and that's what got Tippit killed. But as I say, I'm not trying to kind of answer that here. And I know people think that Croy and Westbrook may have conspired to set Oswald up here with that wallet, but certainly Barrett is right in the thick of it when it comes to that controversy.
John Armstrong's written a big piece on Croy and Westbrook and their involvement in the Oakland shenanigans. So.
Yeah, I've seen a YouTube. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, did any of the attending medics in the ambulance with the Tippit, did they ever say anything about a wallet or testify or write anything up about their experiences?
As far as I know, Johnny, and somebody can, I mean, I'm not an expert in this particular area, but my understanding is that none of them did say they saw a wallet there. I don't know if anybody's, there knows more about that than I do, but I don't recall any of them saying, yeah, we saw a wallet there. Do you know, Neil?
There is another school of thought that it might be Ted Calloway's wallet, because if you recall, he grabbed a gun from the bonnet of the car or inside the car. He press ganged Scoggins into driving around to look for the assailant who fled. And I think this guy, Holmes, the detective, the private investigator, bumped into him, and Calloway came back to the scene after a very short period of time. And it's possible that they wanted to know who the hell is Calloway, because he's got Tippit's gun. So they may have just asked the the police may have just asked Calloway to verify who he is, and he gives them a wallet.
Was this before or after he asked Benavides which way the assailant went?
Okay, so I mean, it's ridiculous because John is being flippant about Calloway's credibility as a witness because you and I, we measured that out, didn't we? Do you remember? I stood in Calloway's position. You stood across the road diagonally. It was 75 to 90 feet on the diagonal. I could see your face easily. You would have known who this person. And allegedly he ran further south and turned west on Jefferson. So why would Calloway, when he gets up to the 10th and Patton crime scene, why does he say which way does the witness go? It's an absurd question.
Yeah, and I don't think Calloway ever said, about a wallet, that the police had his wallet and whatever. So again,
it's just an idea that I can't even remember which researcher said it, but it was it's one of these things where there may have possibly been an innocent explanation for why police were thumbing through a wallet, but I don't know.
But I suppose the key is in terms of this is the fact that Bob Barrett said that Westbrook had a wallet in his hand at 10th and Patton, asking him, "Do you know a Lee Oswald or an Alec Heidel?" And Barrett's view is that why would Westbrook be asking him those questions if he wasn't looking at a wallet with Westbrook and Heidel ID in it? Some people say maybe Barrett's recollection is incorrect and maybe that conversation happened elsewhere. Maybe later on in the day, but according to Barrett, no, it definitely happened at 10th and Patton, so we're left with that to kind of ponder.
Absolutely.
We'll just move on. I'll just quickly run through this last bit. It's those of you that know me know I did a little bit around the Walker shooting. So that slide's from a previous presentation, and it's just really showing you the kind of key locations of individuals when the Walker shooting took place. We can see roughly where the teenager Walter Coleman was located, and the two mystery men that he saw leaving the scene seconds later after the shot had been fired. The reason I'm bringing this up, if we can just move on to the next slide, is I think that actually those pictures, I think Barrett's partner Ivan Lee may have been involved in actually taking those pictures, or certainly involved in that side of things. But Barrett and Lee interviewed Coleman. Coleman was the teenager, if you don't know, who I think he was 14, maybe 13 or 14 at the time, who heard the shot being fired at General Walker, and then stood on top of a bike and looked over this fence that we can see in these pictures, these commission exhibits, and saw two men. One of the men over on the kind of where the kind of gold square is on the left hand picture there, saw a man at a car. Man turned around and looked at him, then got in the car and drove off. He then looked over and saw another man in the kind of like yellow, if you like, yellow square, looking as if he was putting something in the back seat of the car. He didn't see that man drive off because by that time he just didn't really think there was much to carry on looking at and went back inside the house. But he's a very inconvenient witness for people who say that Oswald shot General Walker or shot at General Walker and was a lone gunman, because who were these two individuals? We can also see that Coleman was very, very close to the action there, because his location is roughly where the red square is. So he was very, very close to these two men who were never identified, and they never came forward to tell what they saw or eliminate themselves as suspects. So their presence is suspicious, to say the least. If we can move on to the next slide. The reason I'm really bringing this up is because Coleman was interviewed on the night of the Walker shooting, and I think the following day. And as far as I know, he wasn't really spoken to again until over a year later. If he was, then I've certainly not seen any of the documents to that effect. And what kind of concerns me a little bit here is, and I might be wrong about this, but it just concerns me that it feels like Barrett and Lee are trying to undermine what Coleman was telling them. So they were interviewed, Barrett interviewed Coleman on the, I think it was the 3rd of June, and I've put in the slide on the left there, or the picture on the left with the red. It's me, it's put the red there. It's basically what Coleman furnished to Barrett and Lee, and he says at the time Coleman was standing in the doorway which leads from his bedroom to the outside of the house on the north side of his residence. Coleman heard a blast, and his first impression was that it was a car backfire. He immediately ran to the fence which separates the property where he resides and that of the Mormon church parking lot. Coleman stepped up on a bicycle which was leaning against the fence and which put him in a position to look into the church parking lot and the back of the church property. And then on the right, basically what Barrett and Lee asked Coleman to do was to reenact his actions upon hearing the blast of what he first thought was a backfire on the night of April 10, 1963. And it was personally observed by Special Agent Barrett Lee that it required Coleman 2 seconds to go from where he was standing in a doorway to the stockade fence, a distance of about 14 feet. So basically they're saying that he hears the shot, and 2 seconds later he's standing looking over the fence and seeing the 2 men. And I think the implication here is that the 2 men couldn't have been in the spot where the shot was fired, because it would have taken them more than 2 seconds to get from that spot to where Coleman saw them. So I think you can either call this good FBI detective work, or you can look at it as they're trying to undermine what Coleman's saying, because I don't think that I don't think it would have taken Coleman 2 seconds to get from where he was when he heard the shot to the fence. First of all, he initially thought it was like a car backfire. So he's not an Olympic sprinter in the blocks waiting on the gun being fired, the starting gun. You know, there's going to be a reaction time. He's going to hear something. He's going to wonder, what was that? He may have asked his godfather who was there, did you hear that? What was that? So the idea that, you know, he's going to get from where he heard the shot to the fence in 2 seconds, I think is a little bit disingenuous. And there's also the controversy about where he was actually standing inside the house, or he was already outside the house. If we can go to the next slide. Barrett and Lee go back and interview him again the next day. Just skip that one, Tony.
Okay.
Yeah, so here again, I've kind of highlighted it in red. What Barrett and Lee are doing here is they're trying to highlight discrepancies between a police report and what Coleman had told them. And the bit that's been highlighted there says, on June the 3rd, Walter Kirk Coleman furnished Bureau agents the following noted discrepancies in connection with the above report. Coleman was standing at an outside door at the time of the shot, not sitting in the back room. So basically, you know, that they're trying to clarify there that Coleman wasn't inside the house. He was already standing kind of outside, which is making it a bit more practical for him to get to the fence in 2 seconds. I don't really know the layout of Coleman's house and whether the bedroom, because they were putting shelves up in the bedroom, whether the bedroom had a door that opened straight to the outside. That would seem a bit unusual for a house to have a door that would, a bedroom door that would open to the outside. So there's always been this thing that Coleman was actually standing in the doorway inside the house. Had to then get to the outside door and then to the fence, which would have taken more than 2 seconds. But Barrett and Lee are now saying, which is contrary to what they had said in the report the day before, that Coleman has confirmed to them that they were sitting in the back room. Remember that he said to them the day before that he was standing in the doorway. So again, I'm just putting that out there. There's probably more to investigate in that regard, but it just seemed to me that they were trying to make this kind of connection between it only taking Coleman 2 seconds to get to the fence, and the two men couldn't have been involved in the Walker shooting because it would have taken them more than 2 seconds to get from that point with the cars where Coleman saw them. So I'm just putting that out there again as a bit of another inconsistency. Maybe something that we could look into a little bit more. But when I was looking into the Walker shooting, it was just something that struck me as a bit odd, because Coleman was always quite adamant that he was, or the evidence that he gave that he was standing in the doorway. Now he's actually outside the house. So something to maybe look into a little bit more. Just moving on, Tony. So just finishing up really, about Barrett. He retired from the FBI in 1978. He then had an 11-year career as an associate commissioner for the Southeastern Conference in Birmingham, Alabama. He gave an oral history interview to the Sixth Floor Museum at Dealey Plaza in February 2011. If you're interested in Barrett, I would recommend listening to that. There's also the kind of little 5-minute WFAA TV news report in November 2013 that goes into a little bit more about the Oswald wallet mystery. And he died on the 23rd of August 2017, aged 91. Now, Barrett, to me, it seemed to me he was a bit of an FBI loyalist. He said earlier on that he was very proud to be an FBI agent, and I'm sure he was, and he was up until the day he died. But he also refers to conspiracy theories as a load of crap, in his words. He thought Vincent Bugliosi's book was the best work ever done on the case, and Gerald Posner did a pretty good job. So, that tells us, I think. And he thought Jim Garrison was mentally unstable and James Hosty was an honourable man. I mean, James Hosty may well have been an honourable man, but that doesn't answer the question about Hosty destroying the note and flushing it down the toilet. I mean, that's the FBI destroying evidence. Actually, I think Barrett bought Hosty's house when Hosty was transferred to another part of the States. He bought the house from him. We know about him saying that the police story that they found the wallet on Oswald after his arrest was hogwash. The official version of events as it stands today is still that the wallet was found inside Oswald's pocket in the car, but Barrett regards that as hogwash. Why did he leave out the important details, such as grabbing the gun out of Oswald's grasp in the Texas theatre, and also the part about Westbrook asking him if he knew Oswald or Hidell at 10th and Patton? And as an FBI loyalist, there are other elements. We could almost run through a list of where the FBI got themselves into a wee bit of hot water around the Kennedy assassination. I mean, for example, when Oswald was arrested in New Orleans, he demanded to speak to an FBI agent. That seems quite bizarre. His own FBI colleagues, Seibert and O'Neill, who were at the autopsy, they disagreed with the autopsy photos and also the single bullet theory. FBI agents listened to a tape of Oswald in Mexico City and said that the voice wasn't his. The House Select Committee on Assassinations found many deficiencies in the FBI's investigation. Why was Oswald's red flag removed from the FBI watch list only a couple of weeks before the assassination took place? Had it remained on the red flag there, then Oswald may not have been, working in the book depository that day. So there's a lot of reasons to doubt that the FBI got everything right. However, Barrett, up till the day he died, basically regards all of the so-called conspiracy theories as a load of crap. So we can make out of that what we want. But
Scott, we really sorry to interrupt, Scott. We are running out of time. We're seriously late at the moment. And is there anything else that you want to just finalise with, or can we wrap this up?
I think we can probably wrap it up, Neil. The last slide was just have to be continued because I had to really put this together at quite short notice because I'm away for 2 weeks. So I do feel as if, I'm only really scraping the surface here. And I would like to spend a little bit more time digging a bit deeper. But all I really wanted to do was just kind of give you the overview of Robert Barrett and his involvement. So as we can see, he's quite an interesting figure and probably worthy of further investigation.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. Well, look, thank you very much indeed, Scott. Sorry about the technical problems.
Thank you. All right, a clap for the technical issues.